Well, good morning, Dottie. Do you want to go outside? It's Friday. It's my work day. I know it's late. It's late for you. It's 8:30, but I had to do a session from 7 to 8. There she is. Getting hydrated. And the humidity in here is 23%. So she's a little dry. It's 56% outside. So as I said here, this is my work day. And right now it's 8:30. I don't have another one until 10, but I have 10, 11, 12, 15, and 1. So I'll be done at 2, and then I have one more at 4. But that's quite a little bit of a load. I started this morning with one at 7 a.m. It's a beautiful day out here. I mean, heck, 8:30 and the outdoor temp in the shade is 54, but it's definitely more like 65 out in the sunshine here for sure. Come on, Dottie. And I've asked a couple of times, are you tired of seeing every video start like this with a little bit of a walk in the morning with Dottie? And so far no one said no, and a couple of people say, I don't see how you could ever get tired of that view. So I think I need to keep it short, but I think it sets the stage for any video I do, that whatever I do here, it starts in the beautiful place that I'm staying. She loves sniffing around out here, don't you, Dottie? All right. I was going to say, almost, I said the flags aren't moving at all. They're moving very slowly, and it's not perfectly glassy out there, but it's real close, especially to the left there. It's like pure glass. There's a little bit of ripple in the middle, but it's pretty calm. And what the video is going to be about today, I have no idea. I might do something after when my 1 o'clock session gets done at 2, between 2 and 4. I might put something together. Little sit outside, or maybe, I can't think of any reason I need to run into town. All right, I wanted to see how I might do having the camera face me with the lake in the background, and I went through great ministrations. Is that a word? To get it so I could do this just now. And here I am. You can see me. You can see the lake, and I've got nothing to say. Anyway, this is Eagle Nest. So I was going to do this video with Jack and I going to Red River, but look out there and look at the herd of elk out there, which this is the first time since I've been coming here I've seen that. How many would you say are there? 50?
More than that, probably 75 or 90, somewhere in that range. They're down in here too.
And Jack, describe where we are and what land
We're on New
looking
Mexico 38, about 4 miles north of junction of US 64 in Eagle Nest. This is the one of the Lutz ranches. And if we were going to stop here for a minute, which we're not going to do, there's probably a few calves down there, and they've got them hidden in some brush, because this is what happens. It's calving season, and as they calve, they break off, and it's a solitary thing when they're calving. And then once the calves gain some mobility, they start moving back together in what's called cow-calf herds for security, and a lot more eyes. So, and by the 1st of July, I would say the majority of the calving would be done, probably 95% of it. And then, so there'll be cow-calf herds, and there'll be bachelor herds of bulls, and they'll hang together like that until the rut starts in late August, and then the bachelor herd becomes competitors, and we go through into October with the rutting season, where the bulls break off and bugle and pose and fight to gain a harrow, and that the rutting season is generally over by mid to late October. That's the tail end of it, and then hunting season starts, continues, I should say. And then by the first of the year, the raging hormones have stopped, and the bulls will be gathering with the females. And that's when, after the first of the year, is when you'll see your largest herds of elk, because the bulls will be mixed in with the cows and the calves and the yearlings. And typically, if we have snow, they'll be pushed down from higher elevations. Although, as you can see here, I think it's the 12th of June, we are in, the elk have not moved up into the high country. They're still down here in the low parts. And that's fairly typical for this far south in the Rocky Mountains. Up north, there's a couple more elk off to the left here. There's 3. They're probably
I see them. Yeah.
They probably have their calves stuck somewhere, and they're out grazing. So
it almost sounds like you have some kind of background in wildlife or game warden kind of thing. But
well, I was my formal education's in biology, and then wildlife management and forestry. I went to Pennsylvania Game Commission's the oldest wildlife conservation school in the United States, likely the world. We have a 1-year training program, which I went through in 1972. Yes, I'm an old man. So I worked for the Pennsylvania Game Commission for nearly 12 years, and then tore the sheets with my first wife, and moved to Maryland, and ultimately ended up working for the Department of Natural Resources in Maryland, and went to their academy in Annapolis. Worked for them a couple of years, went back to the Game Commission for about 1.5 years. But Thomas Wolfe says you can't go home again, and you can't. And then I had also discovered the American West at the same time, and so that's it. But I managed about 100,000 acres of state land, and I was a district game protector, they called them then, game warden. I had anywhere from 17 to 22 deputies who I supervised.
So one could say we could probably trust what you're telling us, unless you're talking about a personal fishing experience.
Well, I don't want to impeach myself, but I am a fly fisherman and known liar as well. But you're getting to pretty much the straight scoop for me. Not to say I can't make a mistake, because as I said earlier, I was married twice. But this one's been 45 years. I think it's probably going to last.
So one nugget of information you didn't include talking about the elk. Can you characterize the local elk population here in Eagle Nest?
Well, we winter, and this is without exaggeration, and we winter 6,000 to 8,000 elk. in the Moreno Valley. And unlike the National Elk Refuge up in Jackson, Wyoming, where they artificially feed them to get them through the winter, and they have to, by the way, we have a much more natural arrangement here. The National Elk Refuge populations used to be in nearly 20,000 with the introduction of wolves up there. That decreased and went down to a low of like 5 to 7, in which case we were actually wintering more elk here than the National Elk Refuge. That has grown, that population has grown to approximately 10,000 as of today. But as a result of their feeding up there on the feeding grounds and concentrating those elk, there has been an outbreak of CWD, which is chronic wasting disease. Unfortunately, once that cow literally is out of the barn, there is no getting it back in. So I suspect that over time that will have a leveling effect and reduce that herd up there. But for many years, we were wintering more elk than the National Elk Refuge. And as I said, and a much more natural environment here. We have almost no winter kill. The Northern Rockies, I think Idaho Fish and Game and Wyoming do artificially or supplemental feed them to get them through the winter because they're hanging on by their hooves. Up at Stanley, Idaho, which is north of Sun Valley, and were it not for that, not for them supplemental feeding those animals up there, there would be massive die-offs in the winter because they get a lot of snow.
Well, I shifted the view here because the views out the windshield finally beat the view of just your face.
Oh yeah, well, I could have told you that already.
So tell us where we are right now.
We are approaching the top of Bobcat Pass, which is 99 to 80 or 98, 90, I can't remember.
9280.
9280. 9820, actually. I think he's the selection.
Oh, right.
9820.
The sign's up here.
This is the second highest pass in the state. The highest one is on US 64, crossing over the New Mexico portion of the San Juans at about 10,100 over near the Brazos Cliffs, which are like a mini Yosemite without the crowds, by the way. So, but we're like the Marines.
There it is, 9820.
9820, yeah. And then we're passing into Taos County now, and entering the northern Rio Grande National Heritage Area. And we're starting our descent down into Red River. Off to the right, Michael Martin Murphy used to have a cabin up here. And Murph has lots of ties to this area, going way back before he was very famous.
If you're not familiar with him, he's the guy what's the song, Wildfire?
Wildfire. Yeah.
It's Michael Martin Murphy.
Right, and as he said, his song would have been #1 except for a group called the Rolling Stones, and I believe the Beatles knocked them out in first place way back in the 70s when I first came out. But Michael was moving his concert operation over to Eagle Nest, where he's been in Red River for years, and we're welcoming him over there. We're going to have a new Eagle Nest Pavilion to hold concerts, and he'll be holding 20 concerts between the 4th of July and September. So if you want to meet Murph and come on up to and socialize with the 315 people in Eagle Nest, New Mexico.
Look, Carson National Forest.
Right, Carson National Forest, by the way, this is 1.5 million acres, named after Kit Carson. And they haven't changed the name by being politically correct here, and nor should they. But that's a subject for another time. Suffice to say, despite the imposition of current social mores back on Carson at that time, he was a man of his times, and I don't think there should be any apologies for that. But
the epicenter for all things Kit Carson is Taos.
It is. Yep. He was married to 2 Native women first. One died in childbirth. The other one divorced him in Indian fashion. And then he married well. He married the daughter, Josefa Jaramillo, of the mayor of Taos. And if you haven't read or don't know, Kit Carson was a legend in his own time. And if you have an opportunity to secure a copy of Blood and Thunder, it's the name of the book, Blood and Thunder by Hampton Sides. It is an absolutely fantastic read and probably the most authoritative piece on Carson and best researched as well.
And we're coming into Red River here pretty soon.
There's snowfields on the north side of the mountain, way up top there. I don't know if they're visible or not, but we're looking into the Wheeler Peak Wilderness. And then that's Wheeler Peak Wilderness is there, and then off to our right is the Latier Peak Wilderness, and then just to the west of the Wheeler Peak Wilderness is the Columbine Hondo Wilderness area. So we've got wilderness areas all over the state. These are compared to the Gila Wilderness, which is separated into two units down in the Gila, southwestern part of the state. That and the Pecos Wilderness are the two largest ones in the state, and they're bumping probably 300,000-400,000 acres each. And these are probably in the 50, 80, 100,000 range. I don't recall right now.
But what's coming through your speaker there?
That's a text message. Sorry.
Oh, it sounds like running water or something. Did you hear that?
No, that's coming off the Jersey barrier coast. Coming off the Jersey barriers.
Oh.
That's the echo coming off the Jersey barrier.
The echo? Oh, okay.
Yeah, watch. Listen.
No, it's still going.
I guess I don't know.
It's coming through the speakers, I think. Yeah, it was coming through the speakers.
Well, see how that is when you get old. That ship kind of sailed. I had this had the speakers on. So.
Oh, and there's our view of Red River. Do you know anything about the basic origins of Red River?
1895, it became a mining town. But the formation you see up on the hill up there is the same formation that is formed in the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, and it has been mined here, not there, but down further for molybdenum starting in about 1916. But this is a nice little place. It's got a ski area, within 20 minutes really of, actually 19 minutes of Eagle Nest. You've got this ski area, and 15 minutes away would be the Angel Fire ski area. And I failed to mention at the top of the pass we have the Enchanted Forest cross-country ski area, which is the highest groomed ski area, I believe, in the Rockies. So 3 ski areas here, and then a very short distance, about 16 miles from Eagle Nest, is Taos Ski Valley, but you can't get there because, as they say in Maine, you can't get there from here.
I know that one.
Yeah,
I know that one well. I think it's New Hampshire.
Okay.
You can't get there from here.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So, guys, I told you this morning on the walk that I had no idea what the video was going to be about today, but now you know what it was about. It's going to be kind of a short one, but a sweet one. So I'm going to sign off now. And when am I going to see you again? I'm going to see you again, of course, tomorrow.